or ISRO, and working in partnership with NASA and Axiom.
Vishnu, 9 years till the AMCA comes online, the Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft, which is India's own stealth fighter project. 9 years is an eternity in fighter technology, especially given what we've been seeing in the last few years, whether it comes to, drone tech, drone warfare, manned, unmanned teaming, which we've spoken about in a previous episode, the sheer scale of the network and how it's becoming very much part of the future battlefield. I'm wondering whether 9 years from now, what we perceive to be a fifth generation aircraft is going to look like vintage stuff.
And what's more, we want to crack a century on debut with our first stealth fighter. What are the chances of that happening? The number of technologies which you need to master. It's not just low observability, but reliability of the engine, integration of the GF414 engine onto that platform, if indeed that's the engine that's finally selected. The radar itself will be new build. We made a lot of progress as far as that is concerned. But weapons integration with the latest generation Astra missiles, presumably, all of that has to work. A stealth platform isn't just low observable, it's also got distributed arrays. In other words, it's got radars and other sensors, electro-optical sensors located across the platform. So that the pilot over there uses the aircraft not just as a fighter, but as a sensor. It is a sensor within a group of sensors which acquire information, pass it on through data links, and use it to exploit airspace, hit targets in the air or on the ground or out at sea. All of those sensors, radars, technology, low observability, the fly-by-wire control system, the new generations of weapons that you've got online, they all have to work all together. Because otherwise, after 10 years, if it doesn't work all together, you're tinkering with it and you're fixing it, and you get into a situation where it's taken 15, 20 years for this to actually be the way.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.
You are watching The World 24/7 on the NDTV network. I am Parmeshwar Bava. We've got an action-packed bulletin lined up for you. Let's begin with the top headlines you need to know. US President Donald Trump has threatened higher tariffs on several countries unless they strike trade deals by the 1st of August. Trump has sent letters to major trading partners, including Japan, South Korea, dictating new blanket tariffs under extending the July 9 deadline for imposing his Liberation Day duties. The death toll from flooding in Texas has surpassed the 100 mark as officials face scrutiny over the adequacy of local warning systems. 5 million people remain under the flood watch. Leaders of the BRICS group of developing nations have called for reforms of global institutions and presented the bloc as a haven for multilateral diplomacy amid violent conflicts and trade wars. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that he has nominated US President Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. He described Trump's leadership of a just cause as he met Donald Trump at the White House. India's permanent representative to the United Nations has announced that India has abstained from voting on a UN Security Council resolution concerning Afghanistan, citing ongoing concerns about the use of Afghan territory by designated terrorist groups. Well, the latest coming in, even as he slapped fresh tariffs on 14 countries, the US President, Donald Trump, has said the country was close to making a trade deal with India. Trump has said, and I quote, "We made a deal with the United Kingdom, we made a deal with China, we're now close to making a deal with India," adding that letters stating fresh tariffs were sent out to other countries. His remarks came after he announced new trade measures with countries including our neighbor Bangladesh, Thailand, South Korea and Japan to come into effect starting the 1st of August. Listen in to the US President's latest remarks.
We've made a deal with United Kingdom. We've made a deal with China. We've made a deal. We're close to making a deal with India. Others we met with, and we don't think we're going to be able to make a deal. So we just send them a letter. If you want to play ball, you have to. This is what you have to pay. So as far as I'm concerned, we're done. We're sending out letters to various countries telling them how much tariffs they have to pay. Some will maybe adjust a little bit depending if they have a cause. We're not going to be unfair about it.
My colleague Rishabh Bhatnagar has been keeping a close eye on the key developments. He joins us live at the moment. Rishabh, so amid uncertainty over the conclusion of an interim trade deal with India, Trump is now saying that the US is close to making a deal with us amid fresh tariffs on 14 other countries?
Yep, that is exactly what has happened. India has managed to avoid being a part of that 14-country list on day one of these letters going out. But very clearly, a letter seems highly unlikely now, given that US President Donald Trump has made it very clear that a deal is very, very close. It's just a matter of time now about when this interim trade deal or this mini trade deal is announced as part of avoiding these reciprocal tariffs that have come in, very steep tariffs that came in yesterday as well, tariffs going as high as 40% on Laos as well as Cambodia. Also on other competing manufacturing economies, we're seeing Bangladesh getting about 35% tariffs. We're getting Thailand, Cambodia getting about 36% tariffs. So a very clear indication in terms of Trump saying, if you don't negotiate with us on our terms, that is what you get. We had the likes of developed economies like Japan and South Korea also being slapped with about 30% tariffs or 25% tariffs. That is something that also took place last night, and a very clear indication of whether if negotiations are stalled in terms of trade talks, a letter will be shot instantly, doesn't matter how developed or how big an economy you are. So clearly, India clearly has reached some sort of a deal with Trump, and that will then be announced hopefully within the next couple of days.
Right. Rishabh, do stay on with us for the next update as well. Well, as Rishabh just briefly touched upon it, Donald Trump has just slapped new tariffs on 14 countries, with some as high as 40%, as my colleague Rishabh Bhatnagar has also highlighted. Myanmar and Laos have taken the biggest hits, facing 40% tariffs. Others like Japan, South Korea, and Indonesia are also on the list. They are all part of what Trump calls a plan to fix unfair trade deals and protect US jobs. Trump sent letters to major trading partners, including Japan, South Korea, dictating new blanket tariffs. And these letters caused US stocks to tumble. They were also seen as a message to those countries where White House officials don't believe that trade talks are going particularly well. This is what a former trade negotiator has said. But the notices also deal a blow to hopes that Trump would scale back tariff threats and de-escalate a trade war, some experts argue. Just listen in to what Donald Trump and the White House had to say.
Are the tariff letters that you sent today final offers, or are they negotiable?
Well, that's final offer.
So South Korea, Japan should take it or leave it?
We're always subject to negotiate something that's fair, but we've talked to most of the countries, and pretty much they've had their way for many, many decades, as you know. And it was time that we just wanted fairness. This is not really equitable from our standpoint, because it's just a small token by comparison to the damage that's been done over the years. But we had no other president that was willing to do this. I did it in my first term with China and others. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars of tariffs. No inflation, the most successful period of time that we've ever had financially in the country. The first term. I think this term is going to be much better, even much better than that. That was the best ever, and this is going to be, I think, substantially better. And we're on the way to doing that.
There will be approximately 12 other countries that will receive notifications and letters directly from the President of the United States. And weeks ago, I stood at this podium and I told all of you that the President was going to create tailor-made trade plans for each and every country on this planet. And that's what this administration continues to be focused on. The President will also sign an executive order today delaying the July 9th deadline to August 1st. So the reciprocal tariff rate or these new rates that will be provided in this correspondence to these foreign leaders will be going out the door within the next month, or deals will be made. And those countries continue to negotiate with the United States. We've seen a lot of positive developments in the right direction, but the administration, the president, and his trade team want to cut the best deals for the American people and the American worker.
Rishabh's still with us. Rishabh, so once again, it seems Trump is playing hardball and the markets have been jolted awake?
Yep, very aggressive letters, so to say, in the way no words have been minced in true Trump style as well. What we've seen is that it's a very direct call for companies for countries to actually move a lot of their high-end manufacturing back to the United States. That is how Trump and the Trump administration believes that a trade deficit, or rather the trade surpluses that it has with all these countries, with Japan, with South Korea, with Thailand, that's how he believes that an equitable trade scenario can be reached. And this is, he's also said that all these tariffs that he's slapped, be it 25% or be it 40%, all of them are still lower than what is required to actually balance out trade between the two countries. And he said that if countries and companies are willing, they will get approvals in a matter of weeks to shift manufacturing to the US. So very clear call with regards to this Make America Great Again slogan that the Trump administration has in terms of moving manufacturing and generating more jobs back in the US.
Rishabh, as always, thanks so much for joining us with those crucial details. Meanwhile, US stocks were losing ground in afternoon trading on Monday as the Trump administration stepped up pressure on trading partners to make deals before punishing tariffs imposed by the US take effect. Markets are giving a bit of a mixed response at the moment. US stock futures have slipped post the tariff announcement. Dow and S&P futures have slipped nearly 1%, while Asian markets have risen as investors assess Trump's tariffs. But Trump has warned any trade retaliation will be met with a US response. Staying with updates from America in a dramatic White House moment, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu surprised Donald Trump with a Nobel Peace Prize nomination letter and handed it to him on the spot. This move comes after Trump backed a ceasefire push between Israel and Iran following joint US and Israeli strikes on Iranian nuclear sites. Netanyahu praised Trump's record on peace deals, from the Abraham Accords to recent efforts in the Middle East. Trump, clearly surprised, called the nomination very meaningful. Just listen in to the latest remarks from the White House.
Look, right now, the president is focused on today and to get the Hamas to agree to this ceasefire. I don't want to comment on the details of the arrangement out of respect for these negotiations, but an agreeable and appropriate ceasefire proposal has been sent to Hamas. And I can also tell you Special Envoy Witkoff intends to travel to Doha later this week, where he will continue to engage in these discussions.
Meanwhile, Netanyahu says he still plans to travel to New York City, despite the US Democratic Party's nominee for mayor of the city, Zoran Mamdani, pledging to arrest the Israeli premier, citing the International Criminal Court arrest warrant against him. When asked if he's concerned about Mamdani's pledge, Netanyahu told reporters before his dinner date with Trump that he's not concerned about that. And Trump assured Netanyahu that he would get Mamdani out. Switching tracks to the Prime Minister and his touchdown in Brasilia. Fresh off the BRICS summit in Rio, Prime Minister Modi kicked off his state visit to Brazil, greeted with a vibrant samba reggae performance and a warm welcome from Brazil's defense minister. He has called the Rio leg productive. He's praised the BRICS talks and his meetings with global leaders. Now in Brasilia, the Prime Minister is set for big talks with President Lula. This includes everything from trade and tech to defense, health, and energy as well. And as far as the Indian diaspora is concerned, well, they are fired up to welcome him. As you can see through these visuals, they underline India's global push is in full swing. We spoke to an international relations analyst from Sao Paulo to understand the context, the importance and significance of this touchdown. Listen in.
Narendra Modi's visit to Brazil in the 2025 BRICS summit is marked by a very strategic milestone in India's global outreach and a calculated effort to reposition the bloc within this evolving multipolar order. It was the first official state visit by an Indian prime minister in many decades, and it came with substance. Agreements on trade. Also, we can't leave out renewable energy, agriculture, security cooperation. But I think that beyond the bilateral deliverables with Lula, Modi's presence, I think it sends a very important message that India intends also to lead the BRICS not only as a passive member, but as a pragmatic and autonomous actor committed to institutional reform and the demands of the global south. And I think also in this context, it's very important for the bloc that I think has this little, I think we could call it this autocratic face. A lot of people, especially people from Europe, in the United States, they say that that's how the BRICS bloc, it looks like a bloc that is formed by autocratic governments. It's very important that Brazil is there alongside with India as well as South Africa, and give the bloc this more democratic dynamic.
Amid continued turmoil and confusion over his threats to tax foreign imports into US, President Donald Trump held out a new warning to any country aligning themselves with the anti-American policies of the BRICS bloc, as we had covered. You know that they will be charged an additional 10% tariff without exceptions. Now, China has said the BRICS grouping is not seeking confrontation, responding to Donald Trump's threat to impose an additional 10% tariff on countries aligning with the bloc's anti-America policies. Slipping into a very quick break. Back in a moment with the latest updates for you. Do stay tuned.
Sleepless for sports. We are reloading sports NDTV style. With the biggest comeback this season, India's OG sports journalist on India's #1 news network.
No games, just sports.
Sports coverage levels up with Boria Majumdar on NDTV.
When facts are fragmented, we put the pieces together. Where power collides with truth, we are there.
Behind me is that massive security arrangements that are in place.
Behind fractured boundaries, we clear the fog of war. Fault Lines with Gauri Dwivedi, only on NDTV World.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.
Over 4,000 people, including women and children from Myanmar, fled to Mizoram in the last few days and have now taken shelter in 2 locations of Champai district. Mizoram's Champai district officials have said that the refugees had started entering the state through areas of eastern Mizoram's Champai district since the 3rd of July following violence between 2 ethnic groups in the neighboring country. Sources have informed NDTV that the Chin National Defense Force and Chin Land Defense Force, both anti-military ethnic groups, were engaged in a series of gun battles between the 28th of June and the 5th of July over domination of territory. The Assam Rifles have now been guarding the India-Myanmar border and recently stepped up their security. We've got these details thanks to my colleague Ratnadeep Chaudhary. He joins us live at the moment for further clarity. Ratnadeep, what are the latest details you can disclose?
At this moment, what we have been given to understand by our sources in Mizoram government that since 3rd of July, at least 4,000 people who have entered in Mizoram. These are Myanmar nationals who have fled after the inter-ethnic group clashes between this the ethnic rebel groups which are there in the Chin state of Myanmar bordering Mizoram. Remember, the people in the Chin state of Myanmar and the Mizo people in Mizoram have got close ties, and therefore ever since the 2021 military coup in Myanmar and subsequent fights between the military junta and the anti-junta resistant forces in Myanmar, over 30,000 people have got displaced and they have taken shelter in Mizoram. They have been kept and in shelter homes in Mizoram, and civil society groups, Mizoram government have taken care of them. In fact, very recently Mizoram government had decided also to get their biometric details recorded, and amid all this, now there is this fresh influx. This, however, is between the infights between the Chin ethnic groups, particularly in terms of the control of the Chin state, and given the fact that the Chin state borders India, so whoever controls that area also controls the border trade, and therefore particularly in Champai district's Jwarkathar, where you have the border gate between India and Myanmar, that is where the influx took place, and therefore security has been beefed up. Remember, Assam Rifles guards the porous Indo-Myanmar border, and therefore now the concerns for New Delhi and for the Mizoram government is this fresh influx, even as they prepare for getting the biometric record database for those who have been coming for the past couple of years.
Ratnadeep, as always, thank you so much for joining us with this crucial update. Meanwhile, the distance between Mizoram's Aizawl and West Bengal's Kolkata will be shortened by 700 kilometers by the year 2027, as India, with the help of Myanmar, will be able to operationalize the Kaladan Multimodal Transit Transport Project by then. This is what Shipping Minister Sarbanand Sonowal has said. The KMMTTP will be India's alternative to the Chicken's Neck and help bypass Bangladesh. Our shipping ministry has invested 1,000 crore rupees in developing the waterways of the project, while other agencies are taking care of the rest.
Kaladan River 159 kilometer up to Palatwe, and from there to the Indian border Mizoram. So 110 kilometers like on a road part that is under construction. By 2027 it will be completed. So definitely entire out of the Act East policy announced by Honorable Prime Minister. The target is very clear. We should make all the available opportunities properly explored so that Northern region can be accessible to the global market.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to resource-rich Namibia this week reflects New Delhi's desire for more critical minerals, analysts are arguing. During this trip, which follows Prime Minister Modi's stop in Ghana last week, Prime Minister Modi is expected to discuss access to critical minerals, uranium supplies, and the diamond trade. Flash floods in Texas have killed more than 100 people over the 4th of July holiday weekend and left others still missing, including girls attending a summer camp. The devastation has drawn a massive search effort as officials face questions over their preparedness and the speed of their initial actions, the floods grew to their worst at the midpoint of a long holiday weekend when many people were sleeping. Survivors have described the floods as a pitch black wall of death and said they received no emergency warnings. Israel's defense minister has laid out plans to force all Palestinians in Gaza into a camp on the ruins of Rafah in a scheme that legal experts and academics described as a blueprint for crimes against humanity. Israel Katz said he has ordered Israel's military to prepare for establishing a camp, which he called a humanitarian city, on the ruins of the city of Rafah, as per reports. Palestinians would go through security screening before entering, and once inside would not be allowed to leave, Katz has said at a briefing. Israeli forces would control the perimeter of the site and initially move 6 lakh Palestinians into this area. Switching tracks, Axiom 4, the mission, is currently underway. It's been nearly 2 weeks since Shubhanshu Shukla was at the International Space Station. Just take a look at this latest video that Axiom has released.
Grace crew, welcome aboard the International Space Station.
The best part about being a commander on a mission with all rookies is you get to watch the rookies go through it for the first time.
For me, as an engineer and a scientist, this is an ultimate scientific laboratory where we come to do science, to test our technologies of our countries, to do technology demonstrators and science outreach that I can't wait to do.
And my heart is so full right now because of you guys and because of seeing Earth for the first time.
And it is a privilege to be amongst the few who have got the chance to see the Earth from a vantage point that I have been able to see now. It has been a wonderful ride.
Shubhanshu Shukla is more than halfway through his mission, and some of the 7 Indian experiments he is doing are nearing completion. The 7 declared experiments range from sprouting Indian crops to studying muscle cells and visual responses in microgravity. Our science editor Pallav Bagla spoke to well-known NASA biologist Dr. Sharmila Bhattacharya to understand the value of these experiments. Listen in.
Dr. Sharmila, what are the 7 or 8 experiments which the Indian PIs are doing at the International Space Station, and some of them actually you have trained them?
Yes, so I have to say it's my pleasure to see these experiments going into space, because we should get very valuable data from them. So as you were saying, Pallava, one of them, for example, called Sprouts, is an experiment that uses the 2 very important Indian relevant plants. One is methi, or fenugreek, and one is the green gram or moong dal. Methi and moong dal, which are going to be important because moong, for example, is very rich. It's nutritionally very dense. True. And so if you can add that to salads or other as a dietary supplement, it would be very helpful and useful. And then methi, on the other hand, has a lot of health benefits.
An Indian spice which we use very often, very familiar in our kitchen.
Exactly. And then also cardiovascular function, immune function, and all of these, cardiovascular, immune function, bone density maintenance, these are all important for space flight. So with this experiment, what they're going to be looking at is they're going to sprout these seeds in space, bring them down, and then characterize how they responded in space. And really, the more we characterize and understand these, and these have not been flown before. Crop seeds. Yes, crop seeds on ISS. And so that is another experiment that will further look at other crop seeds and expose them to the space environment, then bring them back to Earth, and then characterize how they grow, how they germinate.
This is something which the Americans have done it earlier. The Chinese have actually done it so many times.
Yes, as has the US, as has NASA, as has ESA.
Thank you for investing your time and watching this edition of The World 24/7. As always, we'll keep tracking the latest for you. Do stay tuned.
But I'd like to start this off by asking you, Vishnu, what you think about the whole question of India not having stealth fighters right now.
It's a huge
Everyone's
problem.
trying to sell them to us as well.
It's a huge problem, Shiv. Let's face it, in as much as we love the Rafale aircraft and the Indian Air Force is completely vouching for it, perhaps they'd like more than 100 more. The Indian Navy has just gotten into an order for 26 Rafale M aircraft. There is a generation gap between the Rafale and the stealth. There is a good reason why a stealth platform is called a 5th generation aircraft and a Rafale is a 4th or 4.5 generation aircraft, and that is low observability. So in as much as the Rafale has brilliant sensors, both in terms of its radar, its defensive suite, its electronic warfare suite, its towed array decoy system, it is not typically a low observability platform in quite the same manner in which a stealth aircraft is. Its design form is different. And therefore, if Pakistan does have low observable aircraft, which would be the J-35, in fact, the first ones might even start entering service or coming into the PAF ahead of entering service at some time this year, then India is in trouble.
So
Why?
this year? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
The first could actually start coming in this year. They're really pushing for it. And they've gotten apparently into some agreement with the Chinese to ensure that the funding is done on very loose and terms favorable to Pakistan, as has been in the case in the past. If Pakistan starts acquiring low platforms which are low observable, in other words, stealth platforms, then that's an additional headache for the Indian Air Force, because tracking stealth aircraft requires a certain specialization. It's much more difficult. The time that you have to actually engage a potential stealth target is reduced greatly, and therefore, it's a problem.
This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
A very good morning. You're watching NDTV 24/7. I'm Divya Vadla. We have a whole lot lined up for you, including a very exclusive interview with EPS, talking about and hinting actually at an AIA-DMK alliance that he's saying is going to be playing out over the next few months. We'll get you all the details as well as trouble that could be brewing in Karnataka, and it is the Chief Minister, the Deputy Chief Minister who have been summoned to the National Capital. We'll get you all the details, but first, let's get you the headlines. And this is an AIA-DMK alliance that might be brewing with the BJP in an exclusive interview to NDTV. This is the first interview of this election season. EPS dropping big hints of that pre-poll alliance. AIA-DMK